Okay, this little section is Eros and the Internet. Now, I brushed by this previously when I talked a little bit about the fact that there was a lot of pornography on the Internet, and there was also a lot of dating websites. And I want to kind of step back from this and look at it sort of phenomenologically, in the sense of saying, okay, these things exist. If we examine them with the reflective powers of our capacity to think, what kind of conclusions might we come to, instead of just sort of reacting to them and saying, well, this is bad, this is wrong, this is horrible. And I'm not saying there isn't anything connected to these things that's problematic. I'm just saying, let's step back a little bit and try to realize that these things come into existence for reasons. And the better we grasp the reasons they come into existence, the better we will understand human sexuality. And if we're going to understand human sexuality, or we need to understand human sexuality in order to understand what we're calling Eros, which is, the most earthly aspect of the cross of love. And this is also connected to the fact that we're living in this period of time where the paternalism that previously existed in the cultures of the world is fading away. And the divine feminine mysteries are back. And they're back in all kinds of places. Later in these videos we'll get to Eros and social existence. But right now we're just talking about the Internet. And what do we have over the Internet? Well, we have a couple of obvious things. We have all these dating sites. And again, remember the dating sites and the porn sites, why are they there? They're there for reasons of commerce. They're there because an entrepreneur recognizes that if I provide a service, people are going to give me money. And I want to do that. Now, the quality of the service somewhat is going to determine the degree of money that's made. So the person providing the commerce has some encouragement to do a good job of it. And there is a tendency, as I said before, for women to show up on the dating websites, and they're looking for the one. They're looking for this romantic perfection ideal that's planted in them when they're children. And if you talk to them about it, and I've been on these dating websites and I've talked to some women about it, they know that this is a problem because they know from their life before. There's a lot of mature older women. Young women don't go to the dating websites particularly, but middle-aged and older women tend to. And they know they've had some life, and they know that it isn't as simple as it sounds, And they also need to be cautious, because there are creeps out there, okay? And a similar kind of thing is true for men who go to porn sites, The more immature and the less control they have over this urge to engage in onanism or masturbation when they're watching these images on the Internet, the more they can be sucked into an excess which is available to them. And again, it's commerce, These webcams and all the rest of it, a lot of money can get spent. And young boys have, we've heard all heard stories of the young boy who had the father's credit card and the parents weren't watching too well what was going on. And the next thing they knew, he's doing chat rooms to Yugoslavia, and there's all these enormous charges on the credit card, thousands and thousands of dollars. Okay? So these are not simple problems in a way. But I want to kind of step back from it and try to see if there's any gold in this. And we also need to recognize that a byproduct of these situations, mostly from the dating websites, but there's other kinds of websites that promote this, is that men and women get into chat rooms and they try to have sexual dialogues, stimulating dialogues in these chat rooms. And of course, a lot of people are justly concerned when young people are preyed upon by older people, you know. A chat room is anonymous. You don't generally see the picture of who's typing to you, you know. And you can have a guy think he's talking to a girl when he's talking to a guy. You know, so there's a lot of dangers on there. And that's why I'm going to do this little bit on Eros and the Internet, because it's a place which manifests, shall we say, some of the worst aspects of fallen Eros, of the cultural fallen Eros. And also some of the clues as to the higher aspects. That is, if we look at this material that's on the Internet, if we look at these processes, we can sort of step back from them and we can draw out of them some things that are true that will help us understand. Men can look at dating websites and the participation in them and learn how to be more romantic and better lovers of women. And women can look at the porn websites and the chat rooms, step back from it a little bit, not get just soured out on it, and recognize that the reason there's this commerce in there is there's something in men that needs to be understood. Now, a friend of mine said, women need to be whorish in bed. Now, what did she mean by that? Well, she meant a number of different things, but she meant that if you recognize the nature of a man, you recognize that he has certain ways in which he's stimulated, and I said this when I said men are warmed from the outside in. And that's why they go to porn sites. That's why they look for visual stimulation. That's why they get on chat rooms and they want to hear dirty talk, because they get stimulated through the senses. So if a woman understands the man that she's a lover with, she will understand, and of course these are generalizations, remember, she will understand that he needs something from her that's of this sort of raw earthly sexuality. And of course she's not really usually taught how to do this. You know, although there are out there, for example, I've seen businesses now where middle-aged women and some younger women, and I don't know how old it goes, but there are businesses out there where women who knew how to pole dance teach their customers, the women customers, how to pole dance. So you can go out there and you can get instruction in how to stimulate the man from the outside in, how to recognize that he's lives in his erotic nature into his senses, and that if you want to touch him in a certain kind of way, you give to his senses. Now, of course, what everybody wants ideally, and there's no reason to not want this. In fact, the ideal element is like crucial. It's the most spiritual element that one can have, is to ask that your situation with your lover conforms to some kind of ideal. But what's ideal for the man is different from what's ideal for the woman in general. Okay? So for a woman to learn to do certain things, and I called this earlier, I called it provocation and intoxication. She provokes him, and he becomes intoxicated and inflamed. And we're going to get into this a little bit more, but as usual, we have to make a pause.